figured I'd give an update from my last video. So on the 1st of January, New Year's Day, I'd had a blank seizure throughout the day, but didn't really recognise that I'd had a blank seizure till later on. My head is just so scrambled right now. I didn't realise I had a blank seizure till I kind of like looked back at it a couple of days later and went, oh my gosh. When I was in the car and I was talking and I just stopped, like that was blank seizure. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few blank seizures in the past. I had 3 severe clonic tonic seizures in 2017 due to my most severe suicide attempt, and then I had a lot of blank seizures after that, and then they stopped, and then due to the domestic violent relationship I was in 2018, they started again. I saw a neurologist who confirmed that the seizures were due to stress, not epilepsy. So I haven't had one since 2018. So when it happened, I didn't initially recognize what it was. Like I was talking and then I just kind of stopped and someone said, are you okay? And I kind of eventually snapped out of it and I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry, like just lost my train of thought, which is pretty normal for me with my complex PTSD and just losing my train of thought a lot. Later that night, I was with my partner and I'd been getting on and off like severe waves of nausea and severe headaches. Like my head would just be throbbing, and I'm prescribed Palexia, which is kind of a bit above codeine for my chronic pain and my endometriosis and stuff. And I spoke to my parents and I'm just like, like what do I do? And so I took a Palexia and 2 Panadol to see if that would kick in, and it didn't. And I came home and waited a bit in between and obviously took another Palexia hoping that would kick in, and it didn't. And I was with my partner and just sitting here on the balcony, and I just got this sudden like ferocious wave of nausea, and I ran into the bathroom because I thought I was going to throw up, and I didn't, but I just ended up like laying on the couch, and he put a plastic bag like in front of me in case I was sick, and then my hands started going numb and tingling, and I knew what to do. So like I laid on my side and I said to him, I'm like, I think I'm gonna have seizures, and he's like, don't think like that. And I'm like, no, I'm serious, I think I'm gonna have seizures. And he's like, what do I do? And I said to him, like, keep me on my side, like hold me, but don't hold me down, just make sure like if my arms and legs and stuff are thrashing around that I don't hurt myself. Like just keep talking to me, remind myself I'm okay, obviously make sure I'm still breathing and I'm not like choking on my saliva or throwing up or anything. Now at this point, not helpful at all, but both our phones had died, so he'd put them both on charge like beforehand, and he didn't want to walk away from me because I was on the couch, and his child was trying to sleep. And you know, I had the first seizure, which I felt coming on, like, because of my hand being numb and tingling. And it was a full body seizure, but it was mostly like one leg and the rest of my body and my arms. And then I had a second seizure that was completely full body. Now, that was severe. Like, seizures in general are severe. They weren't as severe as the ones I had in Sydney in 2017 due to my suicide attempt, but they were pretty full on. I was very aware during the whole thing, and I managed to kind of like whisper words to my partner, because after the second one I just kind of like, I could barely breathe. I was having trouble breathing, I was having trouble swallowing, and you know, I was laying on my side, and I was just kind of like, you need to go and what, you know. And he was terrified to even run down the hall to our room to get a phone to call the ambulance, because he didn't want to leave me for a second, because the second he left, I started having a focal seizure. So with a focal seizure, it's mostly like focused on one body part. So for me, it was my right arm, like my entire right arm just wouldn't stop seizing. And he called the ambulance and managed to flag them down because they went past our house to get to me, and my right arm was still seizing. Now, all of this happened because when I was in a clinic earlier last year, I think, if not the year prior, while in one of the clinics I'd been in, I'd been prescribed Valium. Now, I was prescribed it. I wasn't abusing it. I was prescribed it. My doctor didn't like that because diazepam, Valium, is a very addictive medication. So what had happened was, like, it got into the point where my mental illness had gotten worse, and I was originally on 20 milligrams, so 4 tablets, each tablet's 5 milligrams, and I was actually taking more. I was taking up to 40 milligrams because, like, my lows were just so drastic that I needed something. And I was very honest with my doctor about this. I have beautiful communication with my doctor. I absolutely adore him. And he was just like, okay, you can't be taking 40, like that's too much, but how about, you know, we keep you on the 10 milligrams in the morning, 10 milligrams at night, and 10 milligrams at lunch, or as a PRN. So, like, if I have severe anxiety, or I'm really upset, or having a panic attack, or something like that. So if I really need something, I can take it. But what ended up happening is my body became dependent on the diazepam. So my doctor explained it to me because I got really emotional. I was just like, does that mean I'm addicted to it? Like, does that mean, like, you know, like being an addict, having struggled with addiction and been quite open about a lot of struggles I've had with that. I haven't been open about everything, and I will talk about everything one day, but, you know, being pretty open about that, I was very like, you know, like, I haven't been trying to abuse this, like, you know, like, why am I addicted to this? And he was very much like, no, it's not you, your body. Like, you're not mentally addicted to it, your body has become addicted to it. It's become dependent on it. So you actually need to keep taking it, and hopefully we can get you into a clinic so that you can slowly get off it in a safe environment to keep you, like, to avoid things like seizures and migraines and nausea and stuff like that. So when my doctor went on holiday, he spoke to an associate at his work and explained my situation, explained this is what I'm prescribed, like, you know, and hoped that this guy would prescribe me my medication while my doctor was away for the holidays. Now, he prescribed it the first time, And then the second time, he refused to prescribe me a second lot. Now, because of the amount I take, I have to get a script every week. And he refused. Then apparently he tried to call me one time, but the calls never went through. He'd called my parents but couldn't get a hold of me. And then I spoke to a female doctor that I ended up actually yelling at, because she was going to hang up on me, where she was just like, oh no, like, I can't prescribe you that. And I'm just like, no, do not hang up the phone. I need this medication, okay? Like, I don't think you understand. I'm going to end up going through withdrawals if you do not give me this medication. Now, that might sound like addict talk, but it's just the blunt truth. It was never me abusing my medication. It was me just taking the medication I was prescribed. And it got to the point where my parents were calling the doctor's office because, like I said, my doctor was away. We're just trying to find anyone to give me some Valium to try and help me, like, kind of stop some of these withdrawal symptoms. So it didn't get to the point that it did. And pretty much every doctor in the clinic refused to prescribe Valium. Now, I understand that it's a very addictive drug and stuff, but I'm just like, all it would have taken is for you to look at my file and realize that I'm on this medication, and I've been on this medication for quite a while. You know, I'm prescribed it by my doctor, like, because he never wanted to just take me off it. You can't go cold turkey off medication. And I've had to have this discussion with a lot of people. Don't take yourself off antidepressants or antipsychotics or SSRIs or like things like Valium and olanzapine or stuff like that. Like, you just can't do it. You don't know the risks. So none of this was intentional, but it got to the point where I had none left. So I'd gone like a week without Valium. So I had these seizures. The ambos arrived, and one of my arms was still seizing. And, you know, I was trying to talk to them, but I could barely speak. Like I said, I was having trouble breathing and swallowing. And they ended up giving me a shot of Diaz in the arm, so like Valium in the arm. And my partner told me this, that they said to him, they were just like, kind of like, whoa, like, her seizure, like my focal seizure in my arm, had pretty much stopped immediately as soon as they administered some Valium into me. I mean, we knew that's what the issue was, and me and my family, like, we're doing our best to try and avoid something like this. My mum, not too long beforehand, had been looking up symptoms of Valium withdrawal, and I was ticking nearly every box. I was just like, you know, I don't normally get headaches like this. I'm having severe waves of nausea. Like, this isn't normal for me. And she said, you know, like, one of the worst case scenarios is seizures. And for some reason in my head, I was just like, I got a bad feeling about this. Intuition sucks sometimes. But getting the ambos, they were lovely. Got to the hospital. I heard the ambulance explain everything to the nurse, who typed it into the computer, like onto my file. Explained that I'd been having seizures, explained that I was having a focal seizure when they got there, that they'd administered Valium and that it had stopped it. Then, like, they were super lovely, super lovely. You're like, you know, so much respect to them and everything they do. I just need to make it clear that I overheard them explain everything, that I'd been having seizures, and that they hadn't seen the other two, but they'd seen one of them, and that's why they'd administered the Valium to stop it. Because I ended up in a bed, and I was there for quite a while, and I was just kind of like, you know, like, what's going on? Like, I just had seizures. Like, I'm just like, why isn't someone, like, looking after me? Like, why isn't someone, you know? And this doctor came up to me, and she's just kind of like, what can I do for you? And I'm just like, I just had seizures due to Valium withdrawal. So, doctor comes over and she's just like, what can I do for you? And I'm just like, I had seizures due to Valium withdrawal. And she's like, oh, okay. And, she checked my heart rate and stuff. I mean, the ambos had checked my blood pressure and my blood sugar, but the doctor didn't check any of that. And, she felt my stomach, and my stomach was very tender. And then she was just kind of like, what's the peg tube for? And I was like, gastroparesis. And she's like, oh, when are you getting that out? And I'm like, I only got it put in maybe a bit over a month ago. I was a bit like, what's going on? And then she kind of walked away, and she was just kind of like, so, what can I help you with? And I'm just like, I just told you, I had seizures due to Valium withdrawal. And I've got a pounding headache that will not stop. And I've got severe nausea. And she's like, well, we can give you Panadol, and we can give you Panadine Forte for your headache, and we can give you something for the nausea. So she offered painkillers for my headache and medication for my nausea. And I said, but what about my seizures? Like, what about the fact that I just had seizures? And she said, and I quote, I didn't see the seizures, so I cannot treat them. And I can't even begin to tell you how that fucking felt. Like, and then I said, what about Valium? The reason I've had seizures is because of Valium withdrawal. And she turned around and said, and this is at the hospital, mind you. And mind you, I'd just been administered Valium via a shot in my arm by the ambulance. She turned around and said they don't script Valium. So I kind of lost it, and I got up out of the bed, and I was just like, so you're telling me that you will not treat the fact that I've had seizures because you didn't see them? You won't give me Valium to help prevent seizures, when even my doctor clinic had told me that if I'm that desperate for Valium to try and avoid some of this, that I needed to go to emergency. I needed to go to the hospital to get a script, like to get some Valium. And you're telling me you won't give me any. You won't treat me for the seizures. You won't give me any Valium. And also, you're going to give me Panadol, which I have at home, Panadol Forte, which I have at home, because I have chronic pain and I have multiple medical conditions. So I have painkillers. And you're going to give me medication for nausea. I have severe heartburn and reflux and gastroparesis. I have all those meds at home. And I stated all this. And she kind of like backed against the wall, and a nurse came and backed against the wall too. And I just lost it. I absolutely lost it. I was just like, this is fucking ridiculous. Okay, I've been mistreated by this hospital for my mental health since I was 14, and now my physical health for years where I've been dismissed. Even when it came to my peg tube, to getting my nasal tube because of my gastroparesis before I even got the peg tube, the various other things, the mistreatment I got when I was younger, where a doctor would just walk by me and just be like, oh, you're a cutter. Like, oh, you're an attention seeker. And I'm just like, I am making the biggest complaint about this place. I am sick of it. I am sick of it. I'm like, why do I bother trying to come here for help when my partner had no other option but to call the ambulance because I was having seizures? Just for you to dismiss it and not even treat me. So I ended up walking out because all they offered me was Panadol and something for my nausea, all of which my parents had at home. I had those medications because I have a lot of conditions that require medications like that. I didn't need those. I needed someone to script me Valium or to evaluate the fact that I'd had seizures. And it kind of blows my mind that, like, they didn't just look at my chart, like, look at what the ambulance had said. So I ended up walking into the waiting room, and my mum was there waiting for me because obviously she couldn't come in due to COVID. And I just lost it. I started screaming. I'm just like, I'm sick to death of this place. I'm done. Like, I'm so done. Like, I'm getting paperwork, I'm filling it out, I'm making the biggest effing complaint about this place. Because I've dealt with this hospital for years, and they've mistreated me in every way possible. For years I thought it was just a lack of mental health training and understanding, but no. No, it's so much more beyond that. It's medical as well. I ended up going to Coffs Harbour with my mum, and we waited, I reckon it was like 7 hours before I finally got through. And I'll tell you this, within like 3 minutes of the doctor talking, he said he'd looked at my file, he could see that I'd been at my local hospital. He could see that Valium was something that I've been scripted for a while, that I've been on for a while. And he said, look, you know, I've looked at your file. I know that you're taking diazepam, Valium. I know you're taking quite a high dose. Now, we can't give you much, but we can give you 10 tablets. So, I can't do the maths. My head's not here. We can give you 10 tablets and hope that you can get an appointment with your doctor within this week. And Mum and I, like, as soon as the doctor walked out of the room, Mum was just like, why the hell couldn't our local hospital do that? Why couldn't they have just looked at my file? How hard is it? They would have read the exact same thing. Like, and I understand that Valium's like a very addictive substance and that a lot of people do abuse it. I can't say that I've never abused it in the past, because I have, and I'm an honest person. But that was during my severe breakdown last year when I broke my clean sobriety, and I went through a lot during that time. It was after losing my 11th pregnancy. But I'm very honest, and I've been clean for quite a while. I haven't abused that medication whatsoever, like, and even my doctor knew when I had, like, I was very honest with him. So obviously I got the Valium. To be honest, like I'm really grateful for two people in particular who messaged to see how I was, and also I guess like heavily heartbroken and disappointed by the amount of people who I guess thought were my friend or something, who, like, you know, this is like a real crisis and where the fuck are you? It gets exhausting. It gets exhausting having hopes on people who just constantly let you down and won't be there for you. All I can say is, obviously, like I said, that was on the 1st. That was New Year's Day, the seizures. I've been very weak. I've started to feel like I was going to have another seizure a couple times, but luckily it stopped. Incredibly grateful that I got the Valium when I did, because I guarantee you I would have had more seizures. My doctor's back now. He's incredibly disgusted by the treatment of like the other doctors where he works and my local hospital. He's absolutely infuriated with what I've had to go through. I've been incredibly exhausted, been very weak. I have low blood pressure and postural hypertension as is, but it's been worse lately. Not driving at the moment due to the fact that I had seizures. I'm doing a lot better now. Honestly, I think it's more mentally recovering. It broke my heart seeing how much it affected my partner, because obviously he was holding me while I was seizing, and my dog Vader was actually curled up at my head at one point, and then behind me, even when I was seizing and he didn't move, he just stayed next to me. Seizures are a massive trigger for me after I attempted to end my life in 2017, because it was so traumatic, to the point that if, like, say I'm watching a medical show or something, like if someone's having a seizure, I literally have to look away because I start to panic. I never wanted to go through that ever again. Ever again. So I guess I'm just trying to mentally recover from it all, especially considering I know some people who have seizures, who have epilepsy, who, like, you know, black out when they seize, when they have a seizure. It seems from my past to now, I'm not one of those people. I'm one of those people who's very aware of what's happening and very awake. So I remember all of it, and I wish I didn't, but I do. I'm just mentally, I guess, just trying to mentally get through this, continue to work on my physical health. I've dealt with a severe infection in my peg tube. And I also have to have a second surgery in regards to that, because this is only like a temporary kind of peg, so I have to get a second surgery. And it's a lot. It's a lot. But going through this, like, I don't want to think of it. I don't want to think about it like, oh, the year started with me having seizures, like, all downhill from here. Like, I don't want to convince my brain of that kind of negativity. But I can't ignore or hide how it affected me either. Yeah, so I'm just trying to mentally deal with all this and process it and heal from it, mentally deal and process and heal from it. I can't even think straight. I've been having trouble with my memory since the seizures. It's gotten a bit better, but still not great. But I don't know. I just thought I'd give an update as to what was going on. I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe 4 people will watch this and give a shit, and the rest won't. Because that kind of seems to be how my life is. Share a sexy photo or whatever, and it's like you get over 100 likes and however many comments. You talk about real life, you talk about your real pain and what you're going through, and people don't want to hear that shit. People don't care about that shit. And I'm so grateful. I have the most beautiful parents. I've got the most amazing best friends. People who have been messaging me and asking if I'm okay, like, I'm so grateful for. And my partner's just been the most radiant soul on this planet. But I feel incredibly alone right now. Incredibly alone. And I know a lot of that's because I was the one who went through it, but it's not easy. So part of me is a bit like, why am I explaining things when people aren't really going to listen or care anyway? Because my whole past kind of proves that. Or it's you kind of care for 2 seconds and then that's it. But maybe I just needed to do this video for me. Maybe I needed to actually say out loud what I went through and how I actually feel about it, even though I don't want to admit what happened or what I went through, because it's too much. I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather just pretend I'm fine and fake a smile and be like, yeah, I'm good. just me giving an update on what happened with me having seizures and what's happened since and where I'm at now. So yeah. Bye, I guess.